Welcome to Australian Musician. We're very honoured today to be backstage at Rod Laver Arena with guitar legend Waddy Wachtel. Waddy, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
You're currently on the Stevie Nicks 24 Karat Gold Tour. How's the tour been going so far?
It's going really great. We've been, first of all, we got the Pretenders working with us, so
Yeah.
the package is fantastic, and we've been playing great arenas and having a great time. Both acts are killing every night. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Everybody knows about your guitar work with Linda Ronstadt, Warren Zevon, the Winos, so many bands. I'm just wondering, when did you first become aware of guitar tone as opposed to riffs or licks?
It's interesting. I don't know. I really can't answer that. I just was always very concerned with playing in tune, and then as I started playing around other people, they would say, "Man, your tone is great," and I was going, "Oh, really? I didn't know that. I hadn't really thought about that." It was, I guess, it's down to, like I said, being in tune really is what mattered to me the most, and I would use a Les Paul. I'd found out that tone mattered when I first started doing sessions in LA, and I always, most of the time, play a Les Paul. And when I started out, that's all I had was a Les Paul. And when I plugged into a Fender Twin, I realized that was a terrible tone, and I wanted to get back into whatever it was I was playing in any other amp. But the match of a Les Paul and a Twin was no good. Where a Fender Strat or a Tele in a Twin is excellent, perfect, can't be better. But a Les Paul and a Twin just don't work together. Different Fender amps are great for little tiny Fender Champs, stuff like that, or some kind of a 110 amp or a Fender Super Reverb even. Beautiful, but something about a Twin. That's when I started realizing that's not a good tone. I know enough to know that's not a good tone.
Yeah.
So I was playing in a lot of, back then we were using Music Man amps came out with the 210 HD it was called, and that was a great sound for us, for the Les Paul, and for the Strat too, but it really was wonderful for the Paul.
Yeah.
10-inch speakers I realized I loved.
Yeah. You've always been about just the guitar into the amp and using your fingers and learning tricks along the way, as opposed to using a lot of effects. Were there other guitarists that influenced you in that regard?
Well, I came up before there were effects. You know what I mean? I'm unfortunate, or fortunately, I'm old enough to say there weren't any effects when I came up. I mean, there was an album I heard when I was a kid called The Colorful Ventures, and on that record, there was this distorted sound that I just couldn't get over. I couldn't understand what it was. It was wild to me. And then one day, there's the old famous music store, Manny's Music Store in Manhattan, and I looked in Manny's window, and there was this little thing that said Maestro Fuzz Tone, and I went, "Oh my God, that must be that thing." So I saved up enough money to buy one, and I was playing in a little, what you call a society band at the time, a little trumpet and vibes, and playing weddings and parties and stuff like that. And I plugged that thing in once, and they went, "You can't use that." I'm going, "But it's great. It's great sound." Listen, "No, you can't play through that thing. That's horrible." I went, "Shit." So I put it away until I was driving one day and I heard Satisfaction on the radio. I went, "Oh, there it is. Keith got one." And so from then on, I could use it, But there weren't any effects. I mean, there was a Maestro, not Maestro, was it a little phaser pedal? What was this first orange phaser pedals they had? But I just was never. The thing for me was that as soon as I would plug into any kind of effect, even before you engage the button, it's affected the tone. It's added this transistorized tonality to your sound, which was purely organic before that. But as soon as you plug it into a device with a battery that's generating a signal, it changed it. So I couldn't even. It would make it hard for me to even touch the strings. I just didn't like it. I just didn't like the way it affected the sound of the wood, Yeah. MXR, wasn't it MXR? Was that the first pedals? What were those little pedals?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't use any. I use a volume pedal.
Yeah.
And in the studio, I'll use, I have a great wah-wah pedal, which I love, but I don't have any kind of rack at all. I don't use them.
The guitar that you're most famous for using is the 1960s Les Paul Gold Top, which is...
That's a Sunburst.
Sunburst, sorry.
It's so faded.
Yeah, I was thinking of the other one, the white one that's painted over. It's now retired in the studio, but it's had a wonderful journey through Buffalo Springfield and through early recordings with Linda.
With everyone. That I used that guitar until it was unusable. From the very first sessions I did in like early 1970, probably until I went to Canada with Keith Richards to do his first solo album, and I had just had it fixed again because it had been broken so many times, and I was so happy I had my guitar with me, and we're setting up for the first song, and as I'm tuning it up, I can feel on the back of the neck, I can feel the seam coming undone. I went, oh no, my guitar is fucked, and so am I, and so I put it away. I couldn't use it, and Keith goes, well, here, use this thing, and he gives me this. One of those, there's these kind of, they call them Les Pauls, but it doesn't even look like a Les Paul. It's some kind of black thing. It's real thin, and it's got one cutaway and a big round top on it. And I'm going, huh? What? I don't know. What's this? And with Keith, and usually for myself, I always go live. When I'm going for solos, I like to go live on it. So the first song that we did is a song of How I Wish on the first Winos album. And the solo on it is a live solo on this guitar I'd never played before. And I was like, oh, man. This is worrisome, but it worked out okay.
Yeah. Do you have a large collection of guitars at home?
I wouldn't say so, no, not really. I mean, not in comparison to some of the guys I know or work with. I have very few, actually, in comparison to... Joe Walsh has like a warehouse full of guitars, and I'm sure Keith has 3 warehouses full of guitars. I just have one little basement full of guitars. A bunch of Les Pauls, bunch of J200s, a couple of assorted different acoustic guitars, some lap slides, and that's essentially it. I got some old funky little crazy European guitars that look, I call them video guitars, they look great, but you wouldn't want to play them anywhere. But basically my Strats and my Telly, and I have a Dan Electro that I use specifically when we I have a great rock and roll band at home that we do a lot of great cover songs, and when we do Kashmir, I make sure it's on that Dan Electro in that crazy dad-gad tuning of Jimmy's. And but that's it. Basically, a bunch of Pauls, Strats, Telly.
Any regret guitars once it got away?
Well, yeah. My beautiful 53 Telecaster was stolen. Right shortly after we did the Winos record, I came back and I was working with my brother, I call Danny my brother, Danny Korchmar. He was producing the John Bon Jovi soundtrack for the Young Guns 2 movie. And we were working on it, and I left my trunk full of guitars there, and it was gone. When I came back, the Telly was gone. And the only good thing about that was that my 60 Les Paul was in that trunk as well, and they didn't take that. But they took this beautiful, beautiful Telly that I had, that Jackson Brown got for me, actually. Jackson gave it to me. Because I'd never played a Telly until we did Lawyers, Guns, and Money, and I was in the studio listening to it and trying to figure out what it needed. I said, I need a Telecaster to play the solo on this. I just know that's going to be the right sound. And Jackson laid one on me, and then this person came along with a couple of these beautiful Tellys, and Jackson got it for me, and it was beautiful. It said, I remember it, I'll never forget, it's inside where the volume knob and tone was, it said Gloria on a piece of adhesive tape, Gloria 10, 12, 53. It was like, wow, it's beautiful. And so it got stolen. So still looking for it.
You played some very famous riffs and licks on some legendary recordings. Things like Edge of 17 and Werewolves of London. Yeah. When you first hear those songs, is your first thought, does that usually stick?
What do you mean?
Well, the first thing you come up with, is that what usually ends up on the recording, or?
Oh, a lot of times, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times. Edge of 17 was a specific, we were modeling it after something Stevie had on a demo, and when I heard it, the that part was being generated with echoes and stuff, and I, of course, said, I ain't using no echo. I'll just play it this way. And so that's how I did that. And Werewolves, the guitar solo on Werewolves was the first take. You know, I sent Warren and Jackson home thinking, oh man, I'm going to be here all night. It took us a long time to get the track for Werewolves. It was very hard to get that track to sound the way Warren and I wanted it to. And Mick Fleetwood and John McVie were the band on it finally after every band in LA. And so it was important to get a great solo on it. And so I sent them home and set up the studio, got myself ready, and I said, all right, roll the tape. And I just played a pass with the slide, and I went, not bad. Give me another track, and I put the harmony on it. And I called Jackson. I said, well, come on back. He goes, what do you mean? I just got home. I said, well, I'm done. It's good. I think it's done. He goes, I just got here. I said, well, get back here. And so, yeah, a lot of times first takes are what we're going for, you know. It's either that or you sit there for a while and try to figure something out.
Yeah. One of the other great things you've done in the past is the residency at the Joint with Rick Rosas was on bass, a guy I got to know, who unfortunately left us a little while ago. Any chance of a residency like that happening again in LA?
Well, it's hard. Al Ortiz, my brother here in Stevie's band, has taken Rick's place. You have to have a Mexican bass player. And Al, incredible. But it's been very difficult to get all of our schedules to collide. It was for some reason that whole stretch of time we were always around together. And I guess the word is maybe unemployed. But we were able to do it consistently for year after year after year. But in the last couple of years, it's been very hard to get everyone's schedule to collide at the same time. Bernard's out with the Stones, Blondie's out with the Beach Boys, Al and I are out with Stevie, and when we get back, and Phil is working with Peggy Young, it's just very difficult. And Brett is with Lindsay, so it was hard. But we're going back to do a show on January 13th. We're doing finally doing a show, and it'll be streamed out, and it'll be streamed live and everything. Yeah. So that'll be great, and we'll be around for like about 2 months. So I'm trying to put some gigs together now because we miss it desperately.
Yeah, you've been involved in some great jam bands. One was the Preachers from America that toured out here with Joe and Richard Harvey from the Vinyls.
Yeah.
Any memories of that tour?
Richard Harvey, yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah, I miss Richard Harvey. I saw him last time I was here too. We had a great time doing that. I mean, it was Joe and Rick and Harv, and did we have anyone else? Was it just the boy? I don't think we brought the girls with us. I think it was just the guys in the band. I think it was just the boys. Yeah. It was fabulous. We lived in some house somewhere, and we were here. We were also making a record. I was co-producing a record on Joe. It never got finished, unfortunately, but we cut some great tracks for it, and it was wonderful. Yeah. Great memories, of course. Anytime I've come to Australia, it's always fantastic.
Yeah. Another connection with Australia is your production with the Church. You produced probably the most famous album, Starfish, with Under the Milky Way, hit single on it. Did you have a good vibe about that song at the time?
I did. I co-produced it with Greg Ladani, I have to say, for sure. And Greg was the one who brought me in on that project. That song, it was funny. That was a song that Steve had written, and he was working on it aside from the stuff I was doing with the band, because I just kept working them to get them to be able to play together in the studio the way I wanted to hear it. And every day he would spend a few hours with a great synclavier guy, and the two of them would like just putting together these samples. And finally, I hadn't even heard the song for like a couple of months. And then he played it for me, and I went, oh, that's really good. That's really good. And then I started filling in what was missing. I brought in, I think there's 2 or 3 different drummers on it. And we put the bass on it, put the strums on it, and the Ebo guitars and stuff like that. And the mix was great because they had done all these crazy samples of stuff from the synclavier. There was a million tracks worth of stuff I didn't want to use, but it was during the mix. I would just like pull something in and out and pull, and it was great. It was a great way to accompany what was going on. So there's a lot of great counterpoint going on in it. But yeah, I thought that song was pretty solid. And then I did their next record, the Metropolis, or Gold Afternoon Fix was the name of the Metropolis was the single. And I was hoping to see Steve, but I haven't been able to find him.
Yeah.
I was also here for Mondo Rock
Okay.
with Ross Wilson,
Yeah.
Mr. Ross Wilson, I should say, and Eric McCusker.
Yeah.
In 1990, my wife and I were here for 9 weeks, so I've been to Australia plenty, and I love it.
Yeah. Are you good at picking hits in the studio when you hear them?
Sometimes, yeah. I was involved in the recording of Betty Davis Eyes, and I just happened to be at the studio. I stopped by the studio, and the producer said, "Oh man, I'm so glad you're here because Josh Leo, who was going to play on it, couldn't get there." And he goes, would you play on this song with us? And I literally been in studios all day long. I went, you got to be kidding me, man. I don't want to play on anything now. Let me hear it. And he played it for me. I went, whoa, that's pretty good. So I said, yeah, I'll play along. And everything on that song is live. Everything. Kim's vocal is live. Every sound you hear on it went down as we performed it. And as we start to walk into the booth, I grabbed Val Garay by the arm. I said, I want you to know something. This is a #1 record, man. This is a smash. And same thing when I was in the studio with Melissa Etheridge and we were doing this album. A lot of good songs, but when that song Come to My Window came up, I said, Melissa, this is your smash right here. So yeah, I've been a couple times. Whereas I was so wrong about Werewolves. Warren and I, we were offended almost when Electro Asylum picked Werewolves out of what we thought this great collection of songs was. We thought for sure Tenderness on the Block would be the one, or Johnny Strikes Up the Band. And they said Werewolves. We both went, what? Are you kidding? But they were so right, and thank God they were. And we were so very wrong. And Werewolves has been, a mainstay for he until he parted, and now for his legacy. And my friend Roy, who's also passed away now. But yeah, Werewolves was the one. But I missed that one. I didn't hear that one. I knew Take It So Hard would be a smash for Keith.
Yeah. It would be remiss of me not to ask you about Keith Richards and the Expensive Winos. I guess it was as much fun as it looked like playing in that band?
Most definitely it was, yeah. It was a mission of musical love from the second it came about. I got a phone call from a lawyer telling me Keith Richards was looking for me. And I said, well, why don't you give him my number since you have it? And he said, well, he's at a studio called Larrabee. Do you know it? I said, of course I know it. And he says, would you call him? I called him. He goes, Waddy, I'm putting a band together and you're in it. You're the other guitar player. I went, okay, sounds good to me. And we went to New York, and Steve and Keith and I got together at Charlie Drayton, and we hardly ever rehearsed anything. I mean, but the first song that I heard was Take It So Hard, and I was in heaven. I just couldn't believe that. I said, we get to play one of these, is what I said. And it was like that from then on. It was a joy. With Keith and Steve Jordan and Charlie Drayton and Ivan Neville and Bobby Keys, and then our incredible singers, Bobby Floyd and the incredible Sarah Dash. I'm using the word incredible a lot, but it was a phenomenal grouping, and every night was musically fantastic, just great. To play, he and I, we could really work around each other very, very well. It was a funny moment was we were in the studio one night and just getting to know him in the studio. We'd known each other for years, but not working together. And he was sitting there with his telly, and he was like flipping this toggle switch back and forth. And finally, I just went, "What are you doing? What are you doing, man?" He goes, I can't decide which one's my sound, man." I said, "Why don't you ask me? I'll tell you. It's that one. Put that fucking toggle switch up. That's your sound right there." He goes, "Okay, good." But it was great. And what was really great about it was that on stage, people have stuff in their monitors, you want to hear. and I have drums. That's basically. I mean, I can hear the bass. Um, and they put Keith's guitar on my wedge. I went, get that out of there, man. I don't want to hear him while I'm playing. You kidding me? And he said the same thing. He said, I don't want to fucking hear him while I'm playing. So, so at night on the bus, we'd listen to what we were doing, and then we were both going, wow, listen to that. You know, we'd hit stuff together, or it was just wonderful. Yeah, it was great. And we did 2 or 3 tours that were fantastic. Jerome Smith, who came in after Charlie Drayton left, is coming tonight.
Yeah, he lives in Melbourne.
Yeah, he'll be here tonight. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him since then, so
Yeah.
it's going to be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was about as musical an ensemble as I can get.
Yeah. Do you think Keith would ever get a band like that together again?
Well, getting a band like that together, we're always ready. We got to get together. We did a little. There was a Jazz Foundation of America show, and it was at the Apollo Theater, and Steve is on the board, so he put. They asked Keith if he would come. They were honoring Mary Clayton, so it was it was basically the Winos with Willie Weeks on bass instead, which is a pretty damn good substitute. But it was Ivan and Willie and Keith and myself and Steve, and we did Gimme Shelter, and we did Happy, and Bernard Fowler was there with us, and Lisa Fisher. And we did Happy, and we did Shelter, and dedicated to Mary. And then we got together in the studio a little bit for his documentary that's on Netflix. But you know, it's a large, it's a lot of work to sing lead in a band. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the hardest job on the stage, is just the amount of breathing one has to do to sing every song is enough to kill most people. You know, so. That's a lot of work, and I don't know if we'd ever get the band together again to do whole shows and stuff, but I could see us getting together to do a spot here and there, you know, I hope so.
Yeah. What's on for you for 2018?
So far, I don't know yet. You know, I'm going to go back home. I'm hoping to score some films. I'm working with Adam Sandler a lot, and I'm going to stay home. We've been on the road almost a year and a half solid now, and that was following 4 months on the road with Joe Walsh. So I've been traveling a little bit, so I'm looking forward to being home for a little while.
Yeah. Waddy Wachtel, thanks for your time. Very cool.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
Get out.
Yeah.